Good afternoon, traders. This is Christian Farmer, Strawberry Trade Group, and this is your end of day market recap for Tuesday, December 17th. Risk disclaimer in front of you. Everything that we're going through is for information purposes only, not giving out any advice or recommendations. Everything that we're going through is for information purposes only. So, a bit of chop today, a bit of a downward move today. You're going to hear a lot more about that. You're going to hear the word of the week, which is breadth, which over the last week that continues to not be very good. But we still have some market leaders and still have some areas that are doing really well in the market. Case in point, we have the SPY sitting here above the December value area. Looked like it was trying to break higher a couple times there with those green candles, but not yet. Just the market breadth has not been strong enough. Why is this not breaking down when the majority of stocks that you see are going down? Case in point, here's here's the S&P 4-week new highs, new lows. This is something that I put on for free at substack.com. You can find you could find our page there. That page, by the way, if you're looking for it, is ttgtrading.substack.com. Again, ttgtrading.substack.com. But look at all these names. I mean, I think there was about 30% of the index that's making new lows today. So again, this is 4-week, right? So 4-week new lows versus new highs, and all that in the red is all those names that are making new lows. And it's a bit of everything, by the way. It's consumer names, it's financials, it's healthcare, it's industrials, materials, real estate, utilities, and a little bit of tech, right? And that's mainly why the S&P is holding this range, because when you break down the market cap weighted SPY, SPX, right? When you look at tech, bring these charts up here. XLK, that's over 30% of the S&P. Consumer discretionary is about another 15 or 20%, right? That is also continuing to trend higher, right? Very strong. Tesla and Amazon powering that. And then XLC is also doing very well, right? Even though that slipped below its 5-period moving average, the trend has been pretty strong. When you add those three groups together that are in the S&P, right, you're getting almost 60% of the index, and that's why the S&P is staying around the highs in this range. Now, we know what's been going on here. RSP, when you take the same damn components that are in the S&P and you equally weight them instead of market cap weighting them, you've got this nonsense. This is 12 red candles in a row. And what's interesting about this, because you're hearing now about records and how many days that the Dow, which is a price weighted index, and as well as the people, more and more people are mentioning the RSP, even though I mentioned it last week. Thank you. Nobody retweeted that, but that's okay. But I mentioned last week, I said when this was down like 7 or 8 days in a row, that this is very interesting. Now, the one thing I would say that is also notable with this is not that big of a move. We're looking at, and by the way, the bearish 80% rule is almost complete, but not yet. That would be a move just another 25 basis points lower, and this rule will complete. But all in all, from this whole box, which is based on the volume at price from last month, right? That's only about 3.5%. So it's not that big of a move. Sometimes we see a big sell-off happen in a couple days, and it equals that. This has now been going on for 12 trading sessions, but overall the move isn't that large. It's just very peculiar that you see this many days in a row of red candles. All right. I did structure a trade today. I try to give you guys, real trades, obviously, that I'm doing. I trade both stock and I trade options. And when I'm looking to kind of catch a falling knife, I will always do it. I will structure it with options, right? Because I know how much premium I can lose. And I did the RSP January 186 calls. Why did I do this trade? Well, because there is a seasonal effect that goes on towards the end of the year, which is the Santa Claus rally, which is the last trading days, last 5 trading days of the year and the first 2 of January. But there's also a lot of the underperformers can actually catch a bid towards the end of the year. There is an effect that happens, right? It's called like the dogs of the Dow type situation. There's a lot of names that make 52-week lows that actually outperform towards the end of the year. All right, so that's another reason why I went ahead and put on a trade, but we don't have any support. We don't have any confirmation. Now that's important, right? Let me just talk about the Qs really quick. The Qs had an inside day today after outperforming yesterday, so no change in trend, just a little bit of digestion. But yes, this is kind of on the fringe of overbought, but the trend is very strong for now. IWM, I posted this chart earlier. I mentioned that we've got two levels of support down here. We've got the 50-day moving average, which is important, and we've also got the bottom of the value area, which is just 1/4% away. That's 230.49. Do I like the fact that we're approaching support now? Yes. And do I think that this is a logical place for a bounce? Absolutely. But let me go back to that word, logical. Sometimes the market isn't logical. You have to wait for buyers to come in. So I put this chart out earlier, and someone said, I'm buying, that's it. I'm like, well, what very good traders do, in my opinion, is they wait for confirmation, right? Rather than just guessing. Right now, again, this is an area of interest, no doubt about it. It's a support level, but we have no confirmation yet that buyers are coming in. For example, what would be a good candle that would show confirmation? Well, take a look at what happened back in here. This is a great looking candle for confirmation, right? The market went lower and buyers supported it and actually pushed and closed on the highs. Notice the follow through that you got on here. So ask yourself, like, what kind of a trader are you? Just looking for a turn for one day and then you're gonna ring the register? That's fine if you're doing that, and then you can play these games of catching falling knives. But if and that's up to you if you want to play that game. I generally look for more of this type of a move, right? So I don't care if I'm a little bit late and not timing the exact bottom, because this means a lot more to me than the actual turn. But hey, everybody's different. And it's the same thing with IWM in here too. Here's the turn here. Here's your confirmation getting over the 5-period moving average, and then it runs for 3 or 4 days. That's what I would be looking for, right? I don't need to time this perfectly, but to each his own. All right, so that's a little bit about what the averages are doing. I mentioned that we have the Fed meeting tomorrow. It's going to be kind of interesting because it's really going to be it's really going to depend about what he says, what Powell says in the press conference. That press conference starts at 2, so the Fed announcement is at 2, the press conference is at 2:30, and he usually speaks for about 45 to 55 minutes. Right, the press conference is always the most important, because just like an earnings call, you're going to hear about the guidance. That's always the most important thing in earnings. For example, like if a company comes out with inline earnings, right? What they say in their conference call about guidance is going to push the stock, right? And that's the same thing probably with the market, because if you look in terms of what the market is implying, and I'll bring this up here, there's a 95% chance that they're going to cut interest rates, right? So they don't want to surprise the market. So most likely they're going to cut 25 basis points, 95% confidence. And then it's really going to be what he says and whether he's dovish or hawkish. And that will probably move the market to extent, right? Just like an earnings call, when they release their guidance, the market could really move on that. And that dictates follow through movement as well. All right, so that's what we have tomorrow. One other thing that I would note is towards the end of the week too, on Friday, we're also going to get the PCE number. All right, so I think that also goes into the implications of what the Fed is doing. We just had the PPI and the CPI report last week that shows that inflation is still hanging around. We'll see if that happens for Friday, but regardless, the Fed will make their decision tomorrow. What else do I want to talk about? Just real quick. There wasn't a lot of outperformers today. The VIX did rise. The VIX normally does rise into the Fed, into the event, but I think people are starting to notice how weak this market is outside of your leadership is getting slim, right? And is getting slimmer and slimmer, in my opinion. I just brought this up because I've been bringing it up, a couple times here, but for example, there's only a couple areas that are showing strength. I already went over tech, consumer discretionary. So the breadth is extremely slim. Now, if you're all in growth stocks, right, you probably don't want the breadth to increase, because that means other areas of the market are going to outperform most likely. Your financials, right, your industrials, for example. And again, I'm not saying that this is exactly happens, but this is why a lot of growth investors don't like to pay attention to breadth, right? Because they don't mind when the breadth is really slim and concentrated into those growth stocks. But if we broaden out, value stocks are going to catch a bid. Maybe materials, maybe some energy, right? Maybe some healthcare, right? And that means the growth stocks take a break, right? So that's why you see a lot of growth strictly growth guys on Twitter probably like, hey, yeah, I could care less about breadth, right? Because they don't want to be in energy stocks. They don't want to be in healthcare stocks. They don't want to be in industrial stocks, right? So it all depends on your point of view, right? The watch list, what I thought was particularly interesting today, and this is where I said, pre-market, I said, hey, I'm gonna, and I talked about this at pre-market prep today with Dennis Dick as well, and you could watch that every morning at 8 o'clock on YouTube. Just watch a pre-market prep. You could also see it on my Twitter page. But really, what's been impressive is the quantum computing names, right? They all went up again more today, right? So again, growth. Look at IONQ was up another 5% for the day. RGTI. Now again, some of these names are really small cap, but they're growing very quick. 250 was where the stock was. $2.50 was where the stock was a couple weeks ago. $11 and tacked on another 32% today. UBTS. Sorry, that's the wrong name. Let me go back. These names, I'm sorry, these names are kind of difficult, but where do I have this? QBTS. It's QBTS. There we go. That was also up 16%. QUBT, right? Stronger, up another 51% after yesterday's move. So these things are really hot right now. I think at this point they're better day trading vehicles, but super, super strong. Right now, this is where the momentum is. A lot of people talking about Tesla. Mizuho came in and they mentioned, they upped their price target. Very nice performance by Tesla. I'm still long in my TTG trend portfolio, but I wouldn't be surprised at this point if we get, this wasn't, I would say, like a capitulation buying candle for today, but I think the implied volatility is starting to drop off in the options, which could be a good signal that that the short-term top is very close in Tesla, right? Getting very extended here. The RSI is also pretty darn extended here as well. All right, so that's another name with major strength. Besides that, I mentioned the drone names. I think they also did pretty well today. Not as quite as good as the quantum names, but ACHR was very good. UAVS, I think, is nope, that's not the right one. This should be on here. UMAC, again, I'm getting these symbols confused. It's UMAC. Did not do as well, but I would watch this 11. RCAT had that good news yesterday, but the earnings were not that great. However, still kind of holding in there. A couple other names that I'm watching. Speaking of a name that's been really hit hard, I would keep an eye on Uber. Right? Yeah, nice candle there. They've been buying a lot of calls in this. This is also one of those big underperformers. So this may get a push to the end of the year. Not really my style, but still, that's why I pay attention to option flow, because maybe something's going on in the name. Maybe an activist is starting to poke around in the name. I like this candle in TTD. This was a chart that I put out for members last night. It bounced right on the top of the value area support. So again, logical place for a bounce. Got it today, and it will move back above the 5-period moving average. I like this name. I've been in it a couple times and over the last few months, and back above the nice move back above the December value area. That's it for today's video. Have a great night, guys. See you tomorrow. No end of day video, by the way, tomorrow. Have a great night.